Hey everyone, and welcome back to all you focused learners out there. We're diving straight into Chapter 1 of ACCI F2. Our goal? Simple, but literally the foundation of everything else you'll do. We're building your rock-solid foundation in management accounting. We're going to take that dry textbook theory and turn it into something you can actually use and, understand. All right, let's take a quick look at our syllabus for today. We'll be hitting data, information, and quality, the accurate information framework, planning, decisions and control, missions and smart objectives, the three planning levels, and finally, responsibility accounting centers. Basically, we're moving logically from the raw building blocks of accounting all the way up to corporate strategy and how those plans are actually executed on the ground. So, Section 1, Data, Information, and Quality. These are the fundamental building blocks. We've got to start with the absolute basics so we know what we're actually analyzing when we sit down at our desks. Here's the crucial thing to wrap your head around right out of the gate. Data is just raw material. We're talking numbers, letters, symbols, raw facts, events. On its own, it's unstructured. It's kind of meaningless, really. Just uninterrupted noise until we actually do something with it. Information, though, that is data that's been processed, sorted, and summarized so it actually means something to the person looking at it. Information is what actually drives your business decisions. Let's test this right away with a classic textbook exercise to cement the concept. What, if any, is the difference between data and information? Is it A, they're the same, B, data can only be figures, C, information results from sorting and analyzing data, or D, data results from obtaining information? Take a quick mental pause and lock in your answer. All right, if you chose C, hit the nail on the head. Excellent job. Information absolutely results from sorting and analyzing raw data. Let's look at why the others fail. A is wrong because while everyday people might mix up the words, in management accounting, they are completely distinct concepts. B is out because it artificially limits data to just numbers, and we know a symbol or a letter can be a raw data point, right? And D, well, D just gets the sequence completely backwards. You don't get data from information, you extract information from data. All right, moving on to Section 2, the accurate information framework. Now that we have information, we have to evaluate its quality. This framework, you will absolutely want to memorize it for your exams. Because look, management decisions are only ever as good as the information they're based on. So here's a phenomenal trick to remember what makes good information, the accurate acronym. Let's hit the first half, ACCU. First, accurate. It needs to be exact enough for its purpose. A high-level report might just round to the nearest $1,000, but calculating the cost of a single unit, you need that to the nearest cent. Next, complete. Managers need all the standard and actual costs, but without a bunch of excess padding. Then we have cost-effective. This is huge. The value you get from the information literally has to exceed the cost it took to gather it. And finally, understandable. You've got to ditch the heavy accounting jargon because you're usually presenting to non-financial managers who just want the bottom line. Now for the second half, RATE. Relevant means any redundant stuff is completely stripped out. A sales team needs the total cost to set a selling price, sure, but they don't need a massive 50-page breakdown of factory overheads. Accessible means the info actually gets to the right person, the specific manager who has the power to control it. Timely is absolutely critical. It doesn't matter how precise a report is if it hits someone's desk a month too late to make a difference. And lastly, easy to use. Keep the formatting clean and user-friendly. So that's your accurate framework. Definitely master that one. To really make this stick, think about this real-world example from back in 1999. Steve Jobs finds out Apple's share of computer sales to schools was 12.5%. Standing completely alone, that 12.5% is just a raw data point. It doesn't tell you much. But when that data was compared to Dell's market share of 15.1%, showing that Dell had actually overtaken Apple, boom, it transformed into crucial information. Apple was losing its lead. It went from a simple, boring number to actionable business intelligence. Okay, section 3, planning, decisions, and control. We've got our accurate information. So, what do managers actually do with it? Let's dive into the managerial processes. Well, they use it to actually run the business. The key thing to grasp here is the continuous feedback loop. Check out the flow. You start with a plan, maybe a budget. Management then pumps resources, labor, cash, materials into the system. The system churns out results. Now, here's where the magic happens. Those actual results are measured and reported back, literally fed back, to management through control reports. Management then looks at the actuals versus the original plan. If things are off track, they take corrective action, or maybe they have to revise the plan entirely for the next quarter. Let's put this into practice with another exercise. Mentally categorize these 5 common tasks into either planning, control, or decision-making. Ready? Think it over. All right, let's see how you did. Preparing budgets and setting objectives, those are all about looking forward and figuring out what we want to achieve. So those are definitely planning. Now, Comparing actual results to your expectations or revising a budget because of new feedback, that's all about steering the ship, making sure you stay on track. So that's control. And finally, actually putting things into action and choosing between alternatives, that is purely decision making. Before we can plan anything effectively, we really need to know where the ship is headed in the first place. That brings us to section 4, missions and smart objectives, setting the compass. Every great plan starts with a mission. A mission statement is basically a written declaration of an organization's overall goals. Take a look at this one from the Walt Disney Company. They say they seek to be one of the world's leading producers and providers of entertainment and information. Noticed what's missing? There are no specific profit targets or strict deadlines. It's deliberately open-ended. It sets the culture, the core purpose, the values. It's like a true north compass that guides every single piece of strategy and management information that follows. But a lofty, inspiring mission statement isn't quite enough to run a daily operation, right? To make that mission actionable, we translate it into the SMART hierarchy. Specific, the objective has to be super well defined. Measurable, you need to be able to actually prove you achieved it. Attainable, it's got to be realistic with the resources you have. Relevant, it must tie directly back to that overarching Disney-style mission we just talked about. And timed, you need clear deadlines and stage reviews. By making objectives SMART, we make sure every single department is pulling in the exact same direction. We call that goal congruence. So, how exactly do those SMART objectives get delegated across a whole company? Let's get into section 5, the 3 planning levels, from vision to daily operations. The easiest way to visualize this management hierarchy is as a simple pyramid. Up at the very top, you have strategic planning. This is the long game, usually looking 5 or more years out. It involves the whole organization and is handled by senior managers formulating corporate strategies. Just below that is tactical planning. This is where middle management takes that massive long-term strategic plan and chunks it down into shorter, manageable goals, usually for the upcoming year. And down at the base, that's operational planning. This is the day-to-day grind, immediate troubleshooting, and the short-term tasks that keep the lights on. I absolutely love this comparison because it really grounds the pyramid in reality. Look at how a mission cascades down differently depending on the organization. Take a private school. Their mission is providing a high-quality education. Strategically, over the next 5 years, they might plan to raise $1 million and reduce class sizes. Tactically, for this year, they aim to hire 10% more teachers. Operationally, on a Tuesday morning, that means prepping teaching schedules and training staff on new whiteboards. Now, contrast that with a profit-making business whose mission is a 20% return on capital. Their strategy might be cutting costs by 15% and expanding into Asia. Tactically, they launch a specific cost reduction program. And operationally, That translates to an office manager spending their afternoon calling multiple suppliers to squeeze out a 10% bulk discount. As we wrap up this masterclass explainer, I want to leave you with a really practical thought that ties this whole chapter together. Look at the data you process on a daily basis. Does the information you generate truly feed back up that pyramid? Does it align with your organization's overarching mission statement? Or is there a break somewhere in your feedback loop? Realizing how your day-to-day tasks connect to the highest strategic level, well, that's the true essence of management accounting. Thanks for hanging out with me today, Focus Learners. Keep up the great work, and I'll see you in the next masterclass.